And welcome back in to Weekend Joe, driven by Munganess St. Louis Acura here on Claves Online. As we welcome in our next guest, we go down to Memphis, Tennessee. Used to be, got his radio start here in St. Louis. Now the sideline reporter for the Memphis Grizzlies. He is Rob Fischer. What's going on, Fish? How you doing?
I'm good, Joe. How are you doing, man?
Man, just trying to keep busy, trying
Yeah,
most like everybody else, and somebody like you, I can't imagine what it feels like down there. As the Grizzlies were, close to making a playoff run, they were in the hunt for that 8 seed before everything shut down, and it's probably a whole world of what ifs for you right now, right?
yeah. I mean, it was bizarre because we had left to go on a 3-game road trip to go to Portland, team that was right behind us in the standings. Then we were going to Utah, obviously team in front of us in the standings. Then we were going to San Antonio, another team that was chasing us in the standings. So it was a huge 3-game trip, and we were in Portland and just wanted to watch the Pelicans and who were they playing? Sacramento on television that night because they were both right behind the Grizzlies in the standings. And as we're sitting at Buffalo Wild Wings in Portland, Oregon, all the news breaks and the Utah games canceled against Oklahoma City. And then the game we were there to watch gets canceled. And all of a sudden there's a tweet out that, we were apparently on the same flight as the Utah Jazz after their trip when we went to Portland. And so then we're wondering if we're going to have to be quarantined. And then the next thing you know, we find out, we're leaving the next day to come back to Memphis. And the season just ends. I wrote about it on a column on clavesonline.com about, when the season ends, it always feels like, you break up with a girlfriend, that it just changes your life. I mean, it's that last day, that finality of the season ending, and, your routine, your daily routine, your whole life just changes completely overnight. And this one, it felt like you were dumped because it just ended. I mean, you're on the plane heading back to Memphis and just telling everybody, well, see you when we see you. I mean, with no idea when that possibly could be, and for it to happen in the middle of a regular season and what was a very special regular season up to this point it was pretty disappointing. And it's you still have hope that at some point we'll resume the season and play the last 17 games and then hopefully playoffs for the Grizzlies, but you just kind of sit in a holding pattern like everyone else is right now, not knowing what's going to be next.
What kind of thoughts go through your head? Go back to when you guys were in Portland and you hear the story about sharing a plane with the Jazz and knowing that they were so close on the schedule, just thinking of even more what ifs, knowing how greatly affected the Utah Jazz were with the coronavirus.
Yeah, I mean, we would have been there, I guess, 2 days later in playing in Salt Lake City. So, yeah, you definitely think about that. And then, the thought about the plane, because at that point when the news first came out that, and we're watching the game and they're saying, oh, Rudy Gobert is sick. And it's like, oh, come on. I mean, you still didn't really take it as seriously as we should have at that point. You just thought, oh, the guy's hung over. He was out all night last night, Oak City. But then you think to yourself, well, he was in Oak City, so that's probably not the case. So, but, you just kind of sit and wonder, is this for real? And then, an hour later, the NBA announces that they've just shut down the season. And it was just, the word that everybody used for days, it was surreal. I mean, you didn't grasp the enormity of the situation. And, that kind of, at least I think for sports fans or those of us that work in sports, and, we had questions of, are we going to play in front of no fans, and how's this going to work? And this is crazy. And we'll get to a point that we've never seen before. But then when it was just shut down completely, it was, it was mind-boggling. You just couldn't imagine that something like this would happen. And I hate saying it, but you always thought maybe games would be shut down or arenas closed for some terrorist attack, but for it to be for a pandemic, I mean, nobody expected this to happen. Nobody saw this happening, and it's something that we'll remember the rest of our lives. And it's it's disappointing, but you sit back and you think, the most important thing, as everybody would say, is about the health of people, and the health of our country and the health of the world at this point. So, whatever happens, and you just deal with it, and you do what we're doing every day now. And that's just surviving to the next day and getting through to the next day, and just trying to take it a day at a time. And, when we're all allowed back in the gym and when we're all allowed back in the arenas, we'll play, whether that's to finish this season or to start next season.
Does it make any sense at all that the NBA was hit as hard as they were? I mean, you look, half of the teams in Major League Baseball were down in Florida when this was going on, and there was, one minor leaguer with the Yankees. Nobody in the NHL has tested for it. There's been one NFL player tested for it, but there's been, at least a dozen NBA players that have tested for it? It's crazy.
Yeah, and I don't know, how testing has gone, but I know a lot of NBA teams have done their own individual testing and have gotten outside sources to test their teams, just to be careful for teams that had played the Utah Jazz recently around that time. And that was a big deal, I think, for a lot of those teams. And so I think there's been more testing in the NBA. And, the NBA was at its, peak of its season and playing games and being around each other and being around the fans and being around, travel and things like that, where, baseball was a little bit more secluded. NFL obviously hadn't started. NHL, I don't know if they did as much testing as NBA players, but yeah, I just think it's like the rest of the country. The more testing you do, the more people you're going to find out actually had coronavirus. And I think that's what happened with the NBA.
You mentioned the feeling of the season just ending and some of the emotions that were going on with the Grizzlies season. I mean, being in that playoff position towards the end there and knowing what could have been. You have two different kind of ends of the spectrum when you look at that team with Vince Carter and Ja Morant. With Vince Carter, to know that his career's done. I mean, it's over with, right? He's not gonna try to lace it up for one more year.
No, and it's sad. I mean, I was talking to my wife about it the other night. Vince Carter, his career kind of came to a close. It kind of epitomized his career. Great player, but never won that ring. And now to have, it's been funny because when Vince was with us a few years ago, everywhere that we went, they were playing like tribute videos and saying goodbye to him. And he would always look at me and say, I don't know why they think I'm leaving. I'm not going anywhere. So he's been having tribute videos, but now finally making that decision that his career is going to end after this year. And he was getting tribute videos throughout the league again. And but for it to just end this way and his career to kind of silently come to a close it's really disappointing for him that he deserved a lot more than how it's going to end for him. And it's too bad.
When was the last time he was in Memphis, or when was the last time you were in Atlanta this season? Did you have a chance to talk to him before this?
We actually played them twice in the last 2 weeks before the season was shut down. We played in Atlanta on a Monday night and then came back and played Atlanta at home on Saturday. So we saw him twice in that week. And, he's just kind of struggling to get through it. I mean, they're having a really rough season. He's playing the mentor role. And, I think it's disappointing that his last season is one like this. But, he's a guy that never chased a ring. He's a guy that just wants to play and wants to help. And if that's a mentor role, he does it. And, being around him for the 3 years that he was in Memphis, he was for a superstar type athlete. And people in St. Louis will relate to this. For a superstar athlete, a guy of that magnitude and what he was in the NBA, you could not have been around a more genuine, nice person. I tell people all the time, the biggest superstar I ever covered and the greatest guy I ever covered was Kurt Warner. Now he became a superstar overnight that no one expected that to happen, but he was a genuine, wonderful human being. And Vince Carter was very similar, Hall of Famer, all-star, and couldn't have been more genuine and been a nicer guy. And I wish his career could have ended, a little differently than it did. But if we do come back and finish this regular season, maybe he'll still have that opportunity to go out in style.
And then with Morant, the year that he had, was he? I mean, I guess they're still probably going to do postseason awards. Do you see him getting Rookie of the Year?
Yeah, I don't think it'll be close. Zion Williamson, to me, is the only guy that even has a chance, but he just didn't play enough games. And he's been phenomenal, but only played 20 games where Ja Morant's played the entire season and statistically has been better than any rookie. And, you start hearing the comparisons of when statistic comparisons of, doing things for the first time since like Jordan, or doing things for the first time since Iverson, things of that nature. He's just a special player, and unlike anything that we've ever had in Memphis. And, you just see it on a nightly basis of what he can do. To be 20 years old and to lead this team at the point guard position, hardest position to come into the league in the NBA, and for him to do it has been remarkable. And I think he's run away unanimous winner of the Rookie of the Year. Even if they remain to play the last 17 games, I don't think Zion Williamson could catch him, and I think he's the only one that would have a chance.
That's my thinking. Was the only way Zion could get it is if he got the Pelicans into that postseason spot. That was been the only chance he would have had given the games that he played this year. So knowing that you should have many, many more years of Morant in the future probably softens that blow a little bit.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, that's what, that's the disappointing thing about this season in the way that it has come is, this team was expected, the Las Vegas number was for them to get 26 wins this season. And for them to be, over 26 wins already, to be a team that's at 500 with 17 games to play. They're one game under 500 with 17 to play. They're in the 8th playoff spot. I mean, they've exceeded all expectations by far this season. And to do that with such a young team, to go through a season where, your last 20 games are so meaningful, every single game, that sort of experience could have been great for this team. And I guess, again, you still have the possibility of coming back, playing those final 17 games, and you can kind of ramp it up and get back into that mode and go through that learning process of what it takes to, late in the season to perform every night like it's must win situation could be a great learning experience. I'd be upset for the team if they decide to come back and just go straight to the playoffs. Now, that would mean the Grizzlies are in the playoffs, which is great. But to not have that experience of earning that spot down the stretch with a lot of tough games, and then to go into a postseason with an even different mindset would have been an amazing learning experience for this team that I think, they might be robbed of, unfortunately. But it certainly gives you a lot of hope for the future with Ja Morant, Jaren Jackson Jr. in just his second year in the league, and he's just 19 years old. And to see Brandon Clark come in as a rookie out of Gonzaga, I mean, the young team that the Grizzlies have and how they performed this year certainly gives a lot of hope for the future. This is the first time I can ever remember for a team that's at 500 in Memphis to have this much excitement around a team that's just a 500 team.
So you mentioned bringing the NBA back. We've heard the Vegas idea. We've heard the Disney World idea. Is there one that makes sense? Is there one that you think has a little more weight to it than another? Or, do we just not know anything?
I think that's the problem. We just really don't know anything. I think they're trying to come up with ideas that could work. And it seems like it's gaining traction with Major League Baseball talking about doing it in Arizona. I think it would be amazing to be in Las Vegas for a month with Las Vegas shut down. I mean, you're thinking, I'm in Vegas for a month and there's nothing to do in Las Vegas would be something that would just blow my mind. Or even Walt Disney World, to be on the resort and to just not have anything to do at a place like that would just be bizarre. And, I still look at it. I think now everyone, including myself, have gotten to the point of, if you got to play in front of fans, you just got to play in front of no fans. I mean, if that's the case, it's just going to happen. Whereas for a long time, the possibility of playing without fans was just mind-boggling to me and how bizarre it could be. But I think we are all so hungry for something to come back to some sort of normalcy, to be able to watch something on television that doesn't have to do with big tigers. I think is something that, this country really wants. And I think it's something the NBA wants to lead the way and to try and help bring the country back together and bring it back to some normalcy, considering the NBA was really the one that kind of ended everything when it comes to sports and it comes to social viewing and things of that nature. So I think the NBA wants to try and figure it out. I hope it works, and I hope if it does work, I hope they allow the broadcasters to go so we can see some basketball and we can finish out what was looking like a special season.
Yeah, I mean, everybody, maybe they just hand somebody a phone and you FaceTime with them from the sidelines. That could work too.
Who knows? I mean, the thought of playing a game inside of an arena with no fans and to be broadcasting that at the table of an NBA game, and to think to yourself, you got to be quiet, because if you get excited, if you look out there and you're like, what a terrible call by the referee, he could just look back at you and go, hey, I'm right here. Man. So I think it'd be an unusual experience, to say the least.
That happens with Bob Ramsey all the time at SLU games. So it's
right. Regardless of having fans there or not, they hear Rammer when he's yelling.
So Rob Fischer, one of the I had a sponsor, one of the sponsors of the show. They came up with an idea that they want me to start doing here on Weekend Joe. He wanted me to. This was the Inskip law firm. We call it Opener Up. He wanted me to, as my son jumps into the frame there as well. We take time away from teaching him, playing teacher today. So at Opener Up, he wanted me to buy a bunch of old cards. I said, Corey, I have a bunch of old cards that have never been opened up. So I dug in, and I have the 92-93 Series 1 Topps cards. So you being an NBA guy, we're going to dive into that. I'm going to pick a few out of here. We're going to see what we have. And maybe there's a guy in here that you've run across in your time down in Memphis that we can look at as I look through here. And this is, you see, as we're going through here, just the first ones. We got an AC Green card right off the, yeah. And AC then how?
AC Green's the guy who was known as the longest tenured virgin to ever play in the NBA.
That's, yes. And then, oh, look at this, a Charles Oakley card coming up next.
Charles Oakley. My favorite Charles Oakley story is getting thrown out of Madison Square Garden by the owner of the team, James Dolan, in the last couple of years, which has been a fun thing to view. I love going through cards, by the way. It's one thing that we do in Minneapolis, especially. There's a Target connected to the hotel. They're like, so you don't have to ever go outside in Minneapolis. They have all these tunnels that you can just go to different places. And we'd go to Target and we'd buy a big box of cards and just sit in the room and open cards. It is a lost art, and it's a lot of fun to do, to just go through the cards. I got a ton of them sitting in this room.
I was going to say, I could see your background there. And if you're looking for something to do, I feel like if you just jumped on Twitter with that background there and showed one of your pieces of memorabilia, I think you would entertain a lot of people. And look at, there we go. I mean, this pack of cards right here. You got a Larry Bird All-Star card in there. I think we did well with this card here, as a Muggsy Bogues, a Johnny Dawkins card.
Up for just 1 second, because I got to grab something here for you. Something I need to show.
Look at that! The segment has got Fish to go grab his own memorabilia. What is that? What do we got there?
These are Donruss 2015-16, and Luis Scola, Kyle Korver, St. Louis, and David Lee. Everybody, David Lee.
Look at that. Nice.
Yeah, from his Boston Celtics days. So I love to just look at these every once in a while and see people that are now on the Grizzlies or possibly coaching around the league. Kevin Durant, there's a good Kevin Durant card. So yeah, we picked out some good ones here. You had Larry Bird, for crying out loud.
I know. Yeah, and it's been sitting in a chest in my basement for God knows how long. And and we just open it up, and look at Tim Hardaway on there now. Where's his son at these days?
He is now in, is he in New York still? Or I think he's in New York. I don't know. Maybe he went to Dallas in the Porzingis deal. I can't keep up with him anymore.
Yeah, well, there we go. It worked out. It's working out well. Opener Up, sponsored by the Inskip Law Firm. It's coming. It's bringing us stories for that. I have so many more cards to go through, and I think that we could just make it a Claibs Online weekly special of going through that wall that you have behind you as well. So
I always love opening up cards, man. I'm willing to do that whenever, for sure. And
absolutely, Fish.
My favorite one, Bret Michaels from Poison, everybody. Bret Michaels from Poison.
I think we're going to have to put this video up there on Claibs Online. Fish, thank you so much for taking the time to jump on with us. And soon enough, you're going to be a video chatting expert, I think.
Yeah, I hope so. Joe, anytime, man. Thanks.
Hey, Matt Minster here. Just Chillin' with Hank. And we're here with a helpful energy savings tip from Ameren, Illinois. You can save up to $55 a year by not leaving the TV on as you leave the house or as you fall asleep. Instead, try playing a battery-powered radio for your dog when you go to work. And use the sleep timer on your TV. Find more ways to save at amerenillinois.com/savingsmadeeasy.
Of sunshine through today with...
Hey, I was watching that.